Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And folks, 10 years ago, roughly, a little animated movie came out by an unlikely animation studio. An animated movie that gave rise to the short lived taxidermy core art style and challenged the great mouse in the Oscar race for Best Animated Feature. That animated movie, of course, is Rango, which this month is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. And my God, we just thought we'd take the time to talk about it to commemorate it, Dragon, because I got to tell you, buddy, just to dive right into things, I only saw this movie once in theaters. This was actually funny enough, Dragon. Given me and my dating history, like I can very rarely track things to actual relationships that I've had. This was very much a relationship movie for me because my girlfriend and I at the time were both very much obsessed with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And so for this movie, it was very much just Johnny Depp getting to play the Hunter S. Thompson lizard for 2 hours, and we loved it. And Dragon, I don't like. We did not appreciate this movie for what it was. Just the fact that it featured Hunter S. Thompson as Raul Duke cameo, and the fact that it featured Benicio del Toro's likeness. I mean, that was enough for us, Dragon. Like right away from the get go with the Hawaiian shirt and the get up and Johnny Depp and everything. This was pretty much like an animated Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas for us. But then the actual Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas cameo happens. Needless to say, we're sold on that. We're sold on that element of it. But Dragon, of course, as you probably can guess, this movie is so much more than the Fear and Loathing element. I mean, that is a very, very small part of this movie. Um, this is unequivocally, I think, my friend, the crown jewel of the Nickelodeon movies. I mean, it's honestly kind of stupid how much it stands above all the other ones. And Dragon, given the success of this movie, we might get into this with background, but I'm just going to put it up top as part of my thesis statement here. Given the success of this movie, Paramount started a new animation studio that was then responsible for No Mio and Juliet and Wonder Park. And Dragon, that is just goddamn depressing because I swear to God, this movie holds up so well. It's atmospheric, it's very character driven. I feel the characters hold up incredibly well on the rewatch. Um, it's one of the few times where I feel like a wire reveal story works naturally well within the character's parameters, which we'll get into. I just overall, of course, as I've already mentioned, with the with the taxidermy core aesthetic of it all, it's like you're not going to find another animated film that looks like this. I mean, I am very proud of the fact that this thing did win Best Animated Feature. Man, that was that was a bold call on the Oscars part, but I really think this movie stands out super well, like way more than than when I just saw it in the throes of my relationship and just kind of like related it to the weird Johnny Depp Hunter S. Thompson Lizard movie. It's so much more than that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, for me, Rango, of course, animated love letter to the Western, and a fitting one at that. I mean, not just like, it's a cute little nod to the Western. No, folks, this is an honest to goodness Western all the right ways. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
As the Deco Tiki sentence, the best of the original Nickelodeon films, like definitely like a non-franchisee, just like full on like, okay, this has the Nickelodeon banner on it, but my God, it's so unique. This is my kind of Gore Verbinski film, for
Yeah, I'm
sure.
glad you mentioned the Gore Verbinski for sure, because this arguably is maybe the best film he ever directed, as much as I love the first two Pirates movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid character piece of essentially an actor becoming their role, which is really kind of ingenious and kind of meta. It's kind of a method movie in that regard. And think about this. So rarely do we get a full-on Western in animation versus like the nods here and there. There are some loving nods to the Western, but never like a true blue. Like, we've seen like Rugrats do a Western
Like
episode.
honestly, the last
We've
time we saw it in feature length animation was apart from something like Home on the Range,
was Five Will
probably
Goes West.
yeah, Five Will Goes West. Yeah, yeah.
Really, what did that remind me? Did that get the theatrical release or was that direct to
Oh, it
video?
was theatrical. It
That's
was
what I thought
theatrical.
because it
Yeah, yeah.
feels theatrical. All right.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, and of course, I got to tell you a little personal tidbit I have towards Rango. My animation buddies and I, we really bonded. Rango was kind of the early when we kind of first met. It was around kind of the 2011 range, I think. And we geeked out over Rango, and I didn't know anything. I saw the trailer for Rango. My buddy recommended it to me. We watched it. And we kind of bonded over it. And it was it was one of those. Before we kind of realized the treasure trove, like we both quote El Dorado, beat by beat, and like all that sort of like by
Oh,
like the
I
back of
truly
our
think this
hands.
is very much kind of like a 2010s El Dorado for sure.
Sure, sure. That's what I'm saying. It's just kind of like this is a movie for the animation nerds too, and
Uh-huh.
it's
Absolutely.
phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We always bonded over this movie, and it's kind of one of like not as quotable as El Dorado, but it's definitely like it's gun lotion. Like we know what
It's
that
in the
means.
same vein.
Yeah, like we quote that gun lotion line all the time. It's hilarious. Yeah. All right.
All right. So, Dragon, without further ado, why don't you take us away on our journey? Why don't you get us into some background here?
It's saddle up, folks. Going into the past. Okay. So this thing goes back all the way to 2003, from what I understand. In '03, essentially the way it happens is
2003, the year that Gore Verbinski released his first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Coincidence? Question mark.
well, it's funny you say that. So here's what happens. So Gore Verbinski, essentially around 2003, he's pitched a Don, basically what it became known as after like essentially got massaged into this the way he sold it to other people was a Don Knotts movie with a lizard in a desert with Western
Oh my god.
characters. That's essentially like he turned it into that pitch, but essentially was like okay,
Okay.
like
The
an
fact that
anthropomorphic
this is
Western.
like a Don Knotts movie, first and foremost, A, I can see it with the Rango character. I
Uh
can
huh.
totally. And B, that just makes me love it even more. That's awesome.
Because at the very least, I can't say that was the thing he was pitched to him as, but all I can say is that that's how he pitched the writer on the movie. He used the Don Knotts comparison. So he the way
But
Verbinski
why
viewed
are
it,
there
at least.
so many rattlesnakes?
Why are there so many rattlesnakes?
The
There's
trailer
way too
said
many.
the trailer said there'd only be a few.
Why are there so many bullets on his belt? Okay, so anyway, so the point being, these Western, creature characters,
Yeah,
being the
yeah.
idea. So this kind of led to a series of, and I love this sort of like filmmaking. It kind of started with a series of lunches and kind of story sessions, or just kind
Oh,
of casually talking.
we love our lunches, Dragon.
That we do, that we
Oh yeah,
do.
big
And
time.
basically, they kind of had these character designers who were also ended up being producers on the film, just kind of like, and story men, just kind of talking over with Verbinski, just kind of fleshing out the idea. David, I believe David Shannon is his name. David Shannon was one of the big character designing influences because this guy was a children's book author and an illustrator, and that's kind of why you have like these perfect designs in this film, like these very character. They're all very memorable, even though I mean, years later, maybe it won't be able to recall them. But I mean, in the throes of it, man, it's like these feel like like really people, and you can see a spin off any one of these guys to an extent. They're all very interesting, like a snapshot. I want to know more about this guy. These characters were quite memorable. I felt, especially
Sure,
when you're in the
sure.
thick of it.
Yeah.
So that's very much due to kind of that children's book kind of aesthetic. I think, when it comes to kind of some of the behind the scenes elements. So Verbinski so Verbinski contributed essentially the main skeleton of the film. You have a pretender and a patsy, kind of per the Chinatown water plot, if you will. The Chinatown conspiracy. As essentially that's what Verbinski puts into play. The idea it begins to pick up steam. Just as it picks up steam, Verbinski says, "Okay, guys, I love this. I'm going to go off to direct this film, and then we'll be back." So I can't remember if given that you would be the expert here, I assume okay. So I guess he finished shooting the first Pirates, and then
I'm
he's going
guessing
back
it
to do
would
the
be
second.
Pirates 2 and 3 because they shot concurrently with each other.
Yeah, I wanted to say I kind of like the story better with the idea that it was like the first Pirates and it ended up being the whole franchise. But either way, it ended up being more movies
No,
than
I'm
he
guessing
counted
it was
on.
Pirates 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the point is he
Yeah.
didn't expect it to go that many movies, so it goes like a whole bunch of Verbinski.
Well, keep in
You know,
mind, like I said, Pirates 2 and 3 shot back to back, all up like
yes.
Back to the Future Part 2 and 3 and stuff like that. Yeah.
But well, the point is, so 5 to 6 years later, they're back to Rango after Verbinski gets a little involved. So basically, Verbinski's back in the saddle, so to speak, and he wants to return. He wants to return to do a film. He wants to do a smaller film, ergo Rango, which is kind of in the throes of development, but he very much underestimated the animation process,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
as one tends to do. And that's a really interesting thing about this too, is that Brabinski, not an animation guy, so throwing him into kind of the animated
Oh, it
world,
kind of
which I
reminds
mean,
me of Zack Snyder with that weird owl movie, although this turned out to be a much better result.
sure. And again, another like better kind of closer example would be Spielberg with Tintin, which again
Sure,
kind of
sure.
similar thing. Again, the other great animated Nickelodeon, kind of yeah. All right, so he sells John Logan is kind of the main heavy hitter writer on this thing. He basically sells him with the Don Knotts with the Don Knotts sell because he wanted to work on a film with Verbinski and he needed some talking to. And basically, once he kind of got into the whole Don Knotts sell, like, oh my god, I have to work on this film. Yes, please.
I
So
mean,
he
I think the problem with Don Knotts is that I don't think he would have been able to convey the naivety of the actual Rango character and what we need him to be. Is that correct?
well, sure, and also I want to say at this point he's probably dead, Tiki, but yeah.
Well, way to put a shadow over everything, but yes, you're right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is the point being like this whole like kind of Don Knotts comparison as well as just this whole like
uh,
this Western basically how do you make the anthropomorphic character in the Western setting work, and basically it just seemed everything kind of clicked for the guy. So John Logan, what he
it's like
contributed,
I like with this movie where it's like they pretty much keep everything to scale, and yet they introduce fantastical elements into it, but still keep with that scale.
absolutely. So John Logan, he introduced kind of the pathos of it all, kind of the drama and like the whole identity thing of the film, like Rango looking kind of Rango's identity crisis is all John Logan, and that element of the story is all him. So in terms of the animation, so very very uniquely, and this like never happens. There's very very little motion capture in this film, but what they did is it's kind of a
I
naturalistic
love
motion
this. I
capture.
love this. Yeah, yeah.
So for like maybe a few sequences, maybe I want to say just one sequence, like during the big kind of Act Two sequence, but possibly another or so. There's a little bit of mocap in there, but what they did, so ILM's doing the lion's share of the animation on this.
It's emotion capture.
There you go. So they had Johnny Depp available for 20 days. And this is crazy. So they only had Johnny Depp for 20 days, and Johnny Depp is the star of this picture, which means Johnny Depp's pretty much going to be in every scene of the movie. And so what they did is they gave everyone they created this spacious set, like a bunch of curtains and everything. Not quite blue screen, but the next best thing. This is a simple set, big
Yeah, yeah.
space, and like the set we kind of like isolate where things are. And they had the whole cast recording together, and they gave them costumes, they gave them props, and they pretty much acted out the film for the animators. Don't get wrong, the animators are still doing their reference here and there, but for the lion's share, the majority, and for the vocal performance, they're just giving their performances in camera,
Okay,
and they're studying that.
I mean that's really weird considering that how I don't know how we kind of it's interesting. Filmmaking is interesting, Dragon. That's all I can
It
say.
never happens that way. That's what's crazy about this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Essentially,
For
what
sure.
Verbinski did is he brought his
It's like we
sensibilities.
almost have like a whole like live action Johnny Depp performance in here.
It is, and if you there's like side by side you can watch of those scenes, and it's
Oh, I've
amazing
seen
to
it.
see.
I've seen
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's the thing. It's just Verbinski. What he did, and it's so unique and it's so rare in the industry, is that he basically brought live action sensibilities to the realm of animation, which again is never. I've never heard this process used anywhere else other than this film, which is always kind of a little nugget for this film for me. Every time I go back to, like, oh my god, it's amazing. I remember like the little Nickelodeon tease making of, and I just always remember that clip. Now when you get to the movie and you look at how did they do that? Oh my god, they literally did was in that little promotional.
I
Oh my
mean,
god.
to talk about a step beyond Jimmy Neutron, right?
Oh yeah. for sure. And of course, the design element was kind of working against kind of the what Disney was doing at the time with so many things, where it's like, hey,
But I mean,
let's.
like, do you think that taxidermy core is a good word to describe it? Because Pan Pizza just used it in his recent review, and I think it really works.
Honestly, I never thought of the term, but ever since you brought it up, I was like, yeah, it is quite accurate. It's kind of taxidermy core. It's like, yeah, it's. I mean, basically, the way I was going to frame it is that it's kind of they added like the design style is really Western grit. You know, it's kind of dirty and
Uh-huh.
ugly. Like there's like they put there's some pet store research. I'm sure
I
some
mean,
kind
it's
of
like
local.
literally half these characters could have very well been actual roadkill at some point.
Well, one of our characters is, but yeah. So Roger Deakins, the great Roger Deakins, he's consulted, which is why we have such flawless sets and lighting in this
uh,
film. And as you kind of alluded to at the top, just going to round things out here. Before Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, this is the only film from the 2010s. And going further back, it's Happy Feet, but let's just focus on the 2010s. Uh, this is the only film to get the Best Animated Feature Oscar that is not Disney owned. It's not Disney or
yeah,
Pixar.
yeah,
So
that's super
nuts.
satisfying, and I think it's well earned.
I mean, think about it. I mean, Spider Verse, excellent. Then you have now two. I know for the skeptics and those wasn't much competition, but this film earned it. Darn it! I'm looking at you, that guy. All right,
All right, all right.
all right. So that said, let's kind of break down our acts here, but let's do it through Rango. Let's kind of do it through Rango's arc, as in like the transition from the actor to the legend. So let's start with Act One, the actor.
All right, so Dragon, I think this is such a genius way to do a typical liar revealed setup. I really do, because liar revealed is something that we've seen so many times. And I feel like this film is very self aware about the fact that it is a trope. And it plays with the fact that it is a trope, because from the get go, we get the fact that this character very much does not know who he wants to be, is very much an open slate, but also is super creative and adapting, coming up with stuff on the fly. So seeing him kind of like, seeing the lie essentially be the identity of the main character, Dragon, that is what I really think kind of elevates the whole lie reveal thing. I mean, I really feel like if there's one big bit of criticism that people could throw this film's way, it is the lie reveal thing, because it is pretty obvious, it's pretty spelled out. But like I said, Dragon, I feel like just like the twist and the characterization, uh, it kind of makes it. I give it a pass, Dragon. I give it a pass where I don't usually give movies like this a pass.
Yeah, I mean, what is an actor if not a liar by trade? Technically, because
Uh
again, you're
huh.
trying to fool the audience. You're trying to fool them that you are someone else, and to kind of in a meta way, just kind of apply that to this character as part of his arc is quite ingenious. Like, think about it. We have a pet chameleon in a terrarium who's very imaginative. Arguably isolation possibly drove him a little nuts, and basically his form of escapism is acting and kind of improv and such. I love how he used the terrarium as a symbol for him kind of looking beyond the set to the audience. Literally breaking the fourth wall. We break the fourth wall once we set him on fourth for his journey. He's I didn't cultivate this comparison, but it's very apt and very appropriate to the film. He's the character is voicing a thirst for adventure. Thirst is very key into this movie, where water is gold, essentially.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So he has a thirst for adventure, and kind of the identity of the role. And basically, he's thirsting for adventure, more so an identity of a role that will stick finally. And I love just it's such a human quality in the chameleon, who's all about uh, manifesting change and adapting to an environment. That's what a chameleon does. And the fact that he can't do that until he breaks status quo, when you think about it, he can't really blend into his role until he's like completely broken out of his little four wall status quo. I mean, of course, his journey in getting there, he glimpses Hunter S. Thompson, and actually, by the way, that is Benicio del Toro. They got him too for this.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. So of course, it's the fundamental human questions. He's asking you, "Who are we?" We need to think outside the box, which, well, he does. So I think he goes on that journey as he kind of heads forth towards the town of Dirt, and of course, in getting there, we meet a few two very memorable characters. One I really want to talk about, Roadkill, voiced by the incomparable, and I love him, Alfred Molina.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really bold character choice, Dragon. I will say that, like, even now, 10 years later, the character design still is just a little bit disturbing.
You know, it's even cooler and more creepier. When you rewatch the film, if you notice the car accident that sends Rango out of the car and he breaks the whole terrarium and everything. If you look real closely, you can do frame by frame if you really wanted to. If you're a sick puppy, but you can notice the armadillo is trying to cross the street, and basically the
Yes,
car
I
that
did
Rango's
notice
in
that.
is
Yeah,
on track
yeah.
to run him over, and there's a bump. So I mean, we pretty much we see what happened.
All right, Dumpling State asks, "What is this?" Well,
It's
Dumpling
Rango,
State,
friend.
yeah, it's Rango, but specifically, this is a 10th anniversary retrospective. So we're kind of like breaking down the film in a 3 act structure. So do stay if you like the film. We'll try and be as insightful as we can possibly be.
Yeah.
Dragon, what do you think of the Hunter S. Thompson cameo? Because like I illustrated in my thesis, that was super fucking memorable. I mean, that was a shot in the arm. Like, I still can't believe it exists. Honestly,
Yeah, it's pretty mind bending, especially the fact they got Benicio del Toro and Johnny
they
Depp to
got
reprise their
Benicio del
roles.
Toro's likeness at the very least. I don't think they got his voice, but they
I
got
could
his
have sworn that I heard they got his voice too. I don't know. I heard that somewhere they got his voice,
likeness.
but maybe you're right. Maybe it's just the look. Point being, it's like they got it. It's pretty neat. I remember when I first saw them, they didn't fully get the Hunter S. Thompson. Like, I know I've seen this film, but like,
Oh,
oh
you
yeah,
know, when I first saw the movie, that was
yeah,
like the thing that I most latched onto was like, oh my god, actual Hunter S. Thompson is in this movie.
right.
Ah, like I probably latched onto that a little too much.
Yeah, no, I gathered that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, so Roadkill. Roadkill. Well, he's kind of the wise sage, kind of missionary character. Very indicative of like kind of a story from my childhood. The tortilla and the armadillo story. Remember that?
Vaguely.
Yeah, like the tortilla. Yeah, it's yeah. I remember back in the day, Nick Jr. adapted it in kind of a
Oh,
cute way, which is anyway, always memorable. Anyway, but yeah, so basically the armadillo trying to cross the street, basically being that tale. So basically we set up this whole spiritual manifest destiny of sorts, a spirit quest versus the tangible, Rango's quest for water, the thirst for adventure by
right,
the quest
right.
for actual quenching of actual thirst. So we see he's like going through a bunch of dried up, basically he's going through skins because it's so hot out there, especially on the asphalt. And of course, ultimately, we see the quests for both ultimately are one and the same, which works really well. One could say it's a metaphor.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Dragon. I really like how it wears its themes just purely on its sleeve. Of course, we'll get the mariachi owls, which I think are a great part of the framing
Very
device.
much a Greek chorus, yeah.
Oh yeah, very much so. Except we don't actually ever get the payoff to Rango's gonna die. That's one thing that's a little disappointing.
Yeah,
It's like, well, he'll die
he
eventually.
does have a symbolic death, though, so it's kind of there, but they know it's not an actual death, hence they're like, well,
Right.
eventually he'll die. So,
Because when I was watching this in theaters, I was like totally hooked in, like with all the other weird stuff they were doing in this movie. Like, oh man, they are going to go there.
it's a fun misdirect.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so let's see. So, of course, again, I love the armadillo's simple purpose. I love Molina's performance. He only is really like he's in two sections of the film, but it's really memorable when he pops up. Again, he's just the kind stranger. I don't know. It's just something really kind of warm and comforting with him. I don't know. It's just something
Sure,
kind of like
sure.
the kindness of a stranger. He's the armadillo wants to get to the other side. It's quite treacherous. Anyway, he slices it. All right. So let's talk about Beans. Isla Fisher playing
Oh
Beans.
man, you know what? I think she is easily the biggest catch that I had on the rewatch, Dragon. I don't know, like I liked her the first time I saw the movie. Don't get me wrong, but to me, she's like the highlight of the movie on a rewatch. Like I fucking love her. I think that she's just a great character. I love her established weakness with the freezing, but I love how the freezing like kind of sticks with her character for the most part. And I also love that in spite of her weakness, she's an incredibly strong-willed character. She doesn't let her weakness get in the way. Um, yeah, I was really impressed with this character for sure.
Yeah, I like that Rango kind of, he has that kind of that trippy little vision when he gets kind of spurred out with the water, which again is a whole like mystery. Where's the water going? Like the water in the desert, kind of little kind of Chad that kind of catches fire as the film goes on. I like that vision quest kind of bonds them together and kind of leads him to his destiny, which is the town. And I love that these characters, fundamentally, they're equally insecure characters. Only one presents a stronger front than the other,
Yeah,
which is Beans. Again, Beans is like, yeah, she has a handicap, but it doesn't let it stop her or anything. The town thinks she's crazy, but she's not. And it's a cute. I gotta tell you, it's a cute little relationship that develops between her and Rango. She's living down who she is
I
and her
like that they
faults.
don't really dwell on the relationship either. It's like it's not really a very Hollywood romance, and that's for the best, I think.
Yeah, it's cute though. It's
Mhm.
And of course, I love that Rango he's cultivating his character. She's living down her character and kind of coming to accept it, I suppose, as you could possibly look at. Also, I love like the history she has with the banker. Stephen Root's in this movie, and I love when Stephen Root's in anything. Period. But yeah, he's great here as Mr. Merrimack, the squirrel, who's the banker. Of course, a squirrel would be a
He's
banker.
all
Why
over
not?
this movie. He voices multiple characters.
Yeah, yeah, he's him. He's the doctor. It's like yeah. Yep, and again, she keeps losing these father figures. Poor Mr. Merrimack. We killed the
Really,
squirrel.
Diane?
Really dying. We killed off poor Mr. Merrimack, by the way, and we killed a man.
That's what I was saying. Like the movie does pull some punches, but it doesn't pull all of its punches.
Yeah. So I mean, also just in general, they kind of like the kind of rapid fire. I mean, the townsfolk, just in general, like as I mentioned, I like how they're all quite memorable, and again, good cast too, like
I mean, I
Priscilla.
don't have a ton to say about it because they don't really have
Sure.
arcs per se, but yeah, memorable in terms of design for sure.
Like spoons, waffles, wounded bird. Wounded bird's kind of my favorite. I gotta be honest. Just the
He's
idea of like
great. He's great.
the doc and of course the Abigail Breslin's character, and honestly my other favorite, Wounded Bird and Buford being the Blake Clark bartender. I love a good bartender in a western, so that's really good.
Another memorable one would be the turkey with the arrow through its eye.
Yeah, like essentially like a
Just from
Confederate
a character
soldier.
design point of view, if not a character arc point of view.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of which, let's talk the saloon. The saloon is kind of is a fantastic way to end Act One. The saloon is just a great sequence. You have like the improvised. Uh, we basically we have Rango's again the quest for water with the cactus juice, which again is kind of speaks to the improv of the scene where no, you can't have water, but here's the next best thing, which also means you're gonna have to toughen up like a cowboy to get just thirst to achieve thirst of any kind.
Uh huh.
And again, it's the story of the role before it's before he's actualized the legend. It's we have we have like the whole Durango cactus juice where it gets the namesake from, and it's the man who it becomes this great legend in this whole hilarious scene of the man who killed the Jenkins brothers, all seven of them with one bullet, which amuses me to no end, and he just rolls with it like the great improv, man. I'm sure Joshua Thomas would love this scene.
No, I
Yeah,
mean it is a perfect encapsulation of like an actor's bag of tricks. You know what I mean? I feel like this movie is like one of the few animated movies that really does put like an actor's talents on on full display, even if it is for a standard lie or revealed story.
yeah, and of course the whole like this is where it gets complicated. I just love the blocking of the scene. I love Rango getting the accoutrements, like he's like taking the hat and a little toothpick, and as it goes on, as he introduces himself, and then we have this hilarious thing where he sets off kind of like the Wild Bill Hiccup character of Bad Bill. He sets him on fire, or Black Bart, I
Right,
should say.
right.
Yeah, Black Bart kind of sets him on fire. And the hilarious thing as they're getting to you're about to get into like a good, bad, and the ugly showdown. If you look, Bad Bill, because of his character design, they have to cheat it. He cannot reach his guns, which is hilarious. So, we have just this great misdirect of Rango's first big test. His first big test, basically being, him gaining his bravado through his big bravado. It's like putting his measure against
uh,
someone, for his bravado, which of course ultimately leads to the Hawk. The Hawk is the big. I love each act has a big thread. The big thread of Act One is the Hawk, which
I
is
like how the Hawk is basically like the final act of A Bug's Life in the last scene of Act One. It's like it really raises the stakes in a big way. It really goes to show that this movie ain't fucking around. It's like we're really gonna get some big epic action in this film. And the
right.
Hawk's dead. He ain't coming. He ain't coming back.
Yep. So I love that the Hawk. We built up the Hawk in Act One. The Hawk has his number.
Oh
The Hawk,
yeah.
like Rango escaped the Hawks, and now the Hawk is back, and we just have this great. We have this excellent chase, very Verbinski-esque chase through town. The accidental death with one bullet, very key, one bullet. And basically, we validate Rango's outlandish story about killing his Jenkins brothers as he's a bad hombre. We like this guy, and also I love that this takes away the Rattlesnake Jake deterrent, which invites him to town later. Is that the Hawk's gone, right. Hopper's coming to town now.
Yeah, and I like how you bring up the Gore Verbinski style because I do feel like it's all over the movie. I feel like the taxidermy punk aesthetic was probably his choice given the aesthetic of the Pirates movies, and I also feel like the action sequences very much a Gore Verbinski thing, with the Rubik's cube, the Rube Goldberg machine of it all.
Right. Also, speaking of machine, just to round out Act One, I love the vending machine gag so much.
Sure.
This is awesome. I mean, maybe it's a little broad, but it's just so darn funny.
The Crow actually knowing how to work a vending machine, or the Hawk, I should say.
Yeah. God, it's the coin opera. That's funny. All right. Okay, so Act Two, Rango taking on the role of sheriff, and who gives him that sheriff role? The mayor! The mayor makes him the new sheriff in town, which we know in westerns is not a good thing all the time.
Yeah, the mayor is just not suspicious at all, right?
Yeah, Ned Beatty is so great as the Mayor Tortoise John. He's just
great character design. I feel like they do a great job of he's just empathetic enough that you kind of question if he's a villain, but he's still pretty obviously the villain.
What they did so brilliantly for me is that they took the theatrical nature of Ned Beatty and they worked that into the character. You have a character who's theatrical, like Rango, who is also playing a role essentially.
Right.
And he recognizes it's kind of game recognizing game within Rango. He sees, okay, this guy's pretending as well. I mean, I can call him one. I have the power to actually make him kind of a fall guy. I can make him. Basically, I'm going to use him to divert hope, so I can I can systematically take hope away from people. I can use him as kind of my fall guy and a distraction as I'm doing this under everyone's nose. You control. I love his speech too about the whole basically the way we frame the water thing. You control the land through the water, and the water very aptly, especially in the Old West, especially in this California desert West. Life and it's the
this
life.
This movie came out during a drought, by the way. I just want to state that for the record. So yeah, the idea of California running out of water very much hit home in the moment for sure.
I'm going to also put this out there too. Most thirst-inducing film ever.
I would wager either that or Book of Eli.
Okay, maybe, but I mean, this one's all. And water is all in this movie. It's commodity. Yeah. So basically, water is life and lifeblood of the community because the farming business and everything. Both
of course, we've got that one moment where Johnny Depp's just trying to demonstrate his plan while sneaking in drinks of water.
Exactly, which is great. He does not. I just love that he doesn't get to have that water until he makes his big show. He basically drinks a day's worth of water from the town. Which is hilarious. And of course, also, again, the terrarium symbol keeps coming back where the mayor has his own little terrarium for his a little, I don't know, little aphids or whatever they are.
Uh-huh.
So that's great. Again, we frame Rango in there very intentionally. Great stuff. He has rainwater, vintages of wine and vintages of the drink. It's just it's awesome. And again, we're using the lie in the actor to give purpose someone to believe in, distract everyone from. As I said, he's also just on the whole, just Rango with all the bravado of like now we've given him carte blanche to act all cowboy-esque. We've made him the sheriff. It doesn't get any more cowboy than that. So we just have this great arc of him acting like a sheriff before actually becoming, a sheriff, before being himself as a sheriff. He's pointing guns at kids and he's handing them the gun while he signs autographs and signs the Bible, and he's putting on fun outfits. He's punching old ladies. It's awesome.
Of course, a big fuck up with the bank as well.
Oh yeah, with the whole prospecting
Yes.
permit thing. Yeah. Speaking of which, so the missing water investigation, which of course given because Rango's incompetence as a sheriff, with the hilarity of that prospecting permit thing with the Balthazar.
That really is what kind of screws over the whole plot in a way.
It is. It is. To be fair, it is kind of a red herring for the mayor being behind it, but still, though, I mean, again, it's the whole point. Everyone's supposed to be let off the trail with that. So either or. I mean, Rango did screw up though. He led the opening there. There was a Balthazar mole and the whole mole kin, if you will, like the inbred mole family of the Old West.
And can I just say, literally every character design in this movie is just so fucking accurate to what I would think of when I think of that character as an analog for an old-timey greedy prospector type character.
Absolutely. And of course, one of the film legends while he was still around, easily Avengers era, Harry Dean Stanton. Man, we have Harry Dean Stanton
yes,
as one of our heavies in here. Also, Bates Motel alumni. We got Ryan Hurst as one of his sons, like the dumb one.
Oh yeah, totally.
Chick Hogan. So, classic Western trope. The town posse is formed to retrieve the water from the moles. Rango he gets to use this, and this is a scene, by the way, they fully put on this scene, like they threw the rose petals and everything. The flower petals and everything when they reenacted this scene when they were performing in those 20 days. So this whole Rango putting his acting skills to the test with the theatrical, the Triskadorian troupe traveling theater, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And of course, all the Western troops now we ride. We do the epic ride. The epic kind of Western. We ride our horses or our horse equivalents here. And Wounded Bird as the Native American tracker. It's awesome. So I'm sure you love this. So Act 2, very much, very intentionally Mad Max-esque.
Oh, yeah, very much so, for sure.
Verbinski doing a Mad Max sequence. And I love this. They spoke about this, that what they did here is Gore Verbinski, he upped this very much. It was supposed to be 12 moles. And Verbinski said, let's do 300, put them on bats, and then have a banjo cover of Ride of the Valkyries playing. That's all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is pure Verbinski right there, Dragon. It really is. I say what you will about Verbinski and the Pirates movies and everything like that. Say what you will. I still think the man is a maestro when it comes to action sequences. I really do.
Well, my favorite little thing in that whole sequence, by the way, and darn, the action's fantastic. The action's kind of cool and insane. But I love in the play, the whole idea of the play is they kind of get the drop when they just think it's the three of them. They're just gonna it's like Looney Tunes. Hey, we'll do a little razzle dazzle, then we'll get them. I love that the moles are critiquing the play. This is highly derivative or something. They're critiquing the play before they get caught. Awesome. All right, so ultimately, the water is a bust. It's yet another part of the mystery. They found the jug abandoned before they could say there was nothing in it. They were ambushed, and basically, we see a little clue that Mr. Merrimack was killed inside this thing. He was drowned, and we see his glasses and said kind of giant water barrel, water thing. Water jug. There you go. So we go back to town of the Jack. And we have a really, not just a low of lows, folks. It's how low can you go? Low of lows here. This is we have Rattlesnake Jake
playing limbo.
Yes, and who better than who would be best at limbo? A snake, of course, a snake. So we got Rattlesnake Jake. So the mayor has he stripped away hope. To, in essence, do away with the Old West and kind of do his manifest destiny of progress to build a city versus the old Western town. Which means, one, you take away the water. Then you take away the sheriff with a call to Rattlesnake Jake.
So Rattlesnake Jake, Dragon, I basically think of it as Bill Nighy, of course, played... he played Blackbeard in the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And that is the only Pirates of the Caribbean movie that Gore Verbinski did not direct. So I want to say that Gore Verbinski kind of made Rattlesnake Jake as an apology to Bill Nighy. Like, yeah, sorry that your character was kind of wasted in the Four Pirates movie. We're going to have you be a more memorable antagonist in this movie. Like,
So
we're
speaking
actually going to use your talents.
speaking of memorability, I think it stands to reason. Jake is the coolest, has the
I
coolest
mean, he doesn't
design.
get much screen time, but yeah, he has such a presence to him.
Rattlesnake Jake is just
And
has the
that's kind of the
cool.
opposite of the Pirates character, where with the Pirates character, he doesn't get a ton of screen time either, but he also doesn't have a big presence.
Yeah, just the coolest design
Yeah.
ever. He's got like the great Gatling gun rattle. They gave a snake a mustache. Yeah.
I know, it's pretty cool.
Yep. Of course, Rango, and I love that Rango kind of brought this on himself. Rango, he invited the skepticism by hitching his legend to the Rattlesnake Jake legend. When they're like, everyone was like saying, "Hey, we heard you had an encounter, Rattlesnake." Oh yeah, he's my brother. So and I love that Jake when he shows up, he's mocking him with that, by playing the role. Like Rattlesnake Jake's kind of mock acting, like, "Hello, brother. You want to, you thirsty brother?" Like all that, just
Yeah.
exposing him, and
But I
he's
think
like
it's a
taking.
really effective liar reveal plot, though, because, like I said, I do feel like with the liar revealed, we do get more stakes out of it just because of the we know what the stakes are with Rango, with the identity, and I think they do a great job of building that up. All right.
Yeah, yeah, and absolutely, and I love how. I mean, that's what I'm sorry to you framed it really good. Is that yeah?
Yeah.
It's if you're gonna do a lie reveal, this is like the best way you can possibly do the liar reveal because again, it's like
It all stems from the acting thing, Dragon. It really
yeah,
does, in my opinion.
it's great because when we strip that away from him, Rango really has nothing left. He doesn't have his
Yeah.
identity.
Yeah.
His identity's gone. I mean, the liar reveal has been built up so well up to this point, and Jake tearing him down. Again, it's the fact that here's the difference: when the liar reveal happens, we not only strip away everything from Rango, the town. Like we literally right after he said, "Look at that sign there; it says sheriff." But believe in me, believe it. He got their hopes up so high after they've lost everything. It's like everyone again, it's limbo levels of lows here, folks, and that leaves him. He leaves the role behind, like tosses the badge, and again,
And
even the
we as an audience kind of see his comeuppance. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
like you said, it is built up. So we as an audience, it's like we kind of know this is coming, and I feel like in a way, it's like it kind of treats the audience with more respect than a typical liar revealed story. Whereas with a typical liar revealed story, it's supposed to be like, oh man, what a bummer that the character got found out, But with this one, it's more so just like, yeah, well, this is what he gets. This is the bed that he made for himself.
and it's
So how's
also
he
like
going to pull himself out of it?
there is also an empathetic sense of dread too, where it's like it's the how effective and scary Jake is in this scene that makes you feel like you're feeling for Rango, even though yeah, it was an inevitability and he was going to happen. It was like there's the foregone conclusion of okay, liar reveals coming, like oh god, liar reveals coming, but no, Jake, don't why you got to be so scary, man? Like the whole this great setup of you got killer in your eyes, son. I don't see it, and then whole louder, say it louder.
Right, right, yeah.
Just oh man, Bill Nighy is awesome.
Oh, he's great.
Awesome.
He's great. And like I
He's
said,
so awesome.
I think it's a shame that he got so wasted in the Four Pirates of the Caribbean movie. But yeah, I mean, everywhere else I've seen him, he's absolutely fucking delivered.
Do you know how sad this low of lows is, Tiki?
How sad, Dragon. Is it Vera Farmiga levels of sad?
Well, sure, but I was going for outside. It's so sad. It's so sad that even the macabre mariachis are too bummed out to
Yeah,
play.
yeah, they're too bummed out to Dragon. That's the thing. I love the mariachi band just because it's like they're not only a great framing device for the narrative, but they're also just kind of like a great device for like telling the audience how they should feel on an even deeper level than just telling them the story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. I can't say enough good things about the owls, Dragon. They're one of my favorite parts of the movie.
So that brings us to Act 3, The Legend. So this is where Rango actually becomes the sheriff, becomes like the age-old legend, comes to Jake's level, essentially. So Rango, he gets to meet, he gets to meet the spirit of the West. So
Yeah,
Rango,
I
he
forgot all
returns.
about this in my from my first watch, and this is a pretty potent scene, Dragon. It really is. It kind of ties a lot of the thematic elements of the movie together quite well,
Absolutely, I love
with the
that.
acting especially. It kind of ties the acting themes together very well.
Yes. So I love that he returns to the highway, which kind of spawned him into his quest here. I love the lighting at
Gets
night
to
and
the
everything.
other side of the road.
Exactly. It's a literal crossroads, Tiki. How much more
Uh-huh.
perfect can you get?
Uh-huh.
He's just kind of like he's back to being the tabula rasa, blank slate, no rule to live for. Therefore, he's kind of like crossed the street like the armadillo before him because he got with nothing held back. It's this metaphorical. It's a metaphorical death that was foretold. So essentially, this is the death the mariachis were talking about, but they're not quite picking up on that.
Sure, sure.
So this kind of leads to a very effective, he kind of goes to this almost ethereal afterlife and kind of spirit quest as he kind of ends up in kind of the alabaster, by the alabaster carriage, which essentially was like a white golf cart that our Clint Eastwood figure. And now this is really clever, by the way. Clint Eastwood dressed as the man with no name, given that
Yes,
Rango is a lizard with no
yes.
name. So they're
It's
paralleling each
pretty
other.
damn appropriate, Dragon. It's pretty damn appropriate.
And even better, Timothy Oliphant as the Clint
Uh-huh.
Eastwood character, and also.
Of course, it would be Timothy Oliphant. Why wouldn't it be Timothy Oliphant?
And what's Oliphant well known for, Tiki?
He's well known for voicing sheriffs.
Yes, and Deadwood. Yes, by
Yes,
proxy of yes, the
yes.
sheriff in Deadwood. Yes, but in general, yes, Oliphant very well known for being the sheriff role. The old Tally the old was. I'm sure he does a mean Clint Eastwood impression. I'm convinced.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
Well,
Yeah.
this is proof. So yes, we have this ethereal desert scene. It was like, is this heaven? No, heaven would be Pop Tarts with Kim Novak. I love that line so much. So silly, but I love it.
uh,
So of course, this alabaster golf cart with Oscars, with just full of Oscars.
right, right.
It's the fact that he would. I just love the idea that on the surface, their Clint Eastwood character, he's a crazy man with a metal detector with Oscars in a golf cart.
I mean,
He
it kind of makes
speaks.
you think like maybe the filmmakers knew that this movie was headed for Oscars itself. Who knows?
I didn't think about that, but you're right. Oh my god. Yeah, that makes even more sense now. But I love that you just have this crazy man with a metal detector who speaks in Western proverbs. So he only has like 5 lines, but they're very memorable and they're very applicable to Rango's situation. Like, it doesn't matter what they call you. Deeds make the man, and just some clever. It's such a clever and funny idea that Rango is given. He's given wisdom from an amalgam of the greatest actor and the greatest cowboy. Therefore, the
right,
greatest
right.
cowboy
Yeah,
actor, which
yeah.
fits his situation perfectly. Combination of both roles. So, of course, a hero basically kind of ushers Rango into the new motive of be the experience, not the performance. Embrace life as the stage. And of course we do like the last time we do with the terrarium thing. He draws the box on the dusty window. No man can walk out of his own story. Love it. It's
Yeah, yeah.
great.
Great
And
stuff.
coincidentally, all the answers are also across the street as well. There's all the water mystery stuff solved here too, where basically we remove the spigot. Yeah,
Sure, sure.
makes great sense. Okay, so then we have our showdown. It's not a western without like an actual showdown. Not that Bad Bill thing, because that man never could have reached his guns. It never would have worked.
Well, yeah,
This.
I like that this is more of a battle of wits than anything else. It's like it very much fits in the character of Rango that he's pretty much just using his brain to kind of like to kind of outwit Jake more than it is just kind of a straight up like mono grudge match, if you
Because
will.
clearly, I mean, the guy has a Gatling gun on his tail. I mean, that's
Right,
unfair. I
yeah.
mean,
It's like
how?
it's never gonna work. Yeah, yeah.
So Rango comes with a game plan during this high noon showdown. Just calls him out, Jake. It's we have kind of our Bugs Life bird-esque plan with the hawk, with the formation of bats, and then really cleverly, Jake uses up all his ammo shooting at those bats, which leads to, I got to tell you, my 2 favorite moments in the entire film. One, they both kind of follow each other. One, the fact that when Jake he was the one he kept teasing Rango into like, shoot me, you don't have
Uh-huh.
killer in your eyes. And we just have that excellent moment where now, after he's gone on his big spirit quest, Jake is out of bullets. Rango's right in his face now. After they flooded the town, threw him off his game with all the water and everything, which in itself is a cool idea. But now, gun is drawn. It's cocked, and you ain't got the nerve. Try me. And just the look that Jake gives, like the look of recognition of like, oh my god, he's become, the pretender is a
Sure,
pretender no
sure.
longer. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, that's fantastic. Yes. And it
Great
gets an
storytelling.
even better moment, the big tip of the hat moments of it. Our ending is great, by the way. We literally put Rango into a kind of a glass terrarium all over again, with the bank flows. We're flooding it with water, the symbol of life, in this case inverted into a symbol of death. Great, and we have that double cross.
So
How do you feel
I
about
guess Rango does technically die of old age, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, how do you feel about
Eventually.
How do you feel about the double cross thing? The whole like the mayor turning on Jake, and like the whole like clearing out the old west to make way for the city of the
I
future.
mean, I think it was pretty predictable in terms of how the mayor was being characterized so far. Um, I think it's more well done than most of the usual like twist villain archetypes. Just because I could see, I could genuinely like. I don't really think they were trying to hide it. I think from the get go, I think we were supposed to see that something was a little sketchy about the mayor from the
Oh,
get
for
go. I
sure.
think.
Yeah, I mean, it gave like a
Yeah.
big. We had Rango like a little framed in the terrarium, and the whole like water is life and death in this town. How intimidating can you get? Come on.
Right. Right.
So my other favorite moment of the entire film, when I think of Rango, I always think of this beautiful moment. My God, with Jake and Rango, the earned respect here, where again the mayor double crossed Jake, and Rango came through with one bullet, and just have this beautiful moment where Jake kind of realizes, he saved his bacon with one bullet, and he has this Bill Nye. The way he delivers this line is perfection. One bullet. I tip my hat to you, one legend to another. It's like, yes, like that's what it's all about, Tiki.
Right.
That's
Right.
a Western ending, and again, it's not like a big old like whammo blammo like high noon thing. It's like, yeah, he used his wits there, and but the plan B came into, and on the rewatch, I love that the dread with Rattlesnake Jake is he doesn't leave town without taking a body, without like dropping a body. They call him the Grim Reaper. So the Grim Reaper collects one soul per visit, and that soul is the mayor. And how terrifying is it when he just wraps that turtle up and drags him away in the water? It's like, yes, just phenomenal. Now the town has water. It went from dirt to mud. We do the sunset shot. Give him a good one, amigo, and it's wonderful. He becomes a sheriff. He becomes a sheriff on his own terms. How nice.
Yeah. I mean, it really is just a great kind of standalone film, Dragon, and that's one of the things I want to emphasize going into our final thoughts here. Is in an age of like the MCU and everything, this came out really like right when the MCU was really starting to ramp up with this was like a year before the Avengers, and I don't know, man. It's like I know that other animation studios have done their own thing, and like come out with non-franchise works. Of course, we've seen Pixar do that. We've seen Disney do that. But it's just so refreshing to see a movie that just stands on its own morals so much. Not just that, but it really just just kind of like takes an incredibly unique animation style and a story that might be a little familiar, but there's enough clever twists along the way to really freshen it up. So, Dragon, honest to God, with the fact that Wonder Park and Gomeo and Juliet were the follow-ups to this, it's a fucking miracle that this one turned out as great as it did. But I absolutely unequivocally think that at the very least, it's one of the best non-Disney Pixar movies of the 2010s. Absolutely. It's right up there with the original How to Train Your Dragon, I'd say.
Hmm. For me, just kind of closing on the legacy of 10 years later. 10 years later, this is still, I feel, maybe the go-to introduction to the Western genre for all ages. If you could show a kid this, like, what's the Western about? Like, okay, I'll show you. Like, watch this, man. This will give a great sampling of what it's like. And I mean, look, I'll be honest, like, nowhere near as iconic or beloved as like as Woody in Toy Story. But let me be clear, though. that's not that's like a taste of the old west. This is a full meal of the old west. This is like
Sure,
the
sure.
full, again, this is the full accoutrement. You're in a western that happens to be animated. That's what's great about this film. I'm kind of lifting this a little, I'm paraphrasing this a smidge, kind of the revelation, but it's really true, is that this is kind of a melding of the genres that we've seen so much. We've seen the anthropomorphic animal film, and we've seen the western. They both were kind of struggling up to this point. We kind of gave them new life in combining them, and their combination with each other. It kind of gave them new life. It kind of gave something completely brand new and special, and that's it. It's something special about this film. You know, it's an unusual combination, just in many respects. Gore Verbinski and animation. I wouldn't have predicted it. I don't know
Yeah,
if it
me
would work
neither.
again, if I'm being honest. I don't know if this is like, this is the stars aligned. Verbinski is great for this story. I don't know if
Yeah,
Verbinski returning
yeah.
animation would turn out something quite so special. I don't know. But you know what? It worked wonders here. So much so, we're talking about it 10 years later.
All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a blast revisiting this film. Like I said, definitely one of the ones that very much stands out in the non-Disney canon of animated movies. So check it out. It's on Netflix. It's pretty much eternally on Netflix for the foreseeable future, as far as I can tell. And yeah, have a good night, everybody.
It's a metaphor.